Okay, Shabbat Shalom. We hope everybody's well and safe. This week's parsha is a treasure trove, Kedoshim. We wanted to talk about what it says in Perek Yutet, chapter 19, Pasuk 17. Please look these up. Today we want to go bring a lot of different resources and hopefully everybody will enjoy. It says that the Torah says, Lo tisna achicha bilvavecha. Do not hate your brother in your heart, rather chastise him, reprimand him. And do not deal with him as you deal with a sinner. Do not. So then the Torah says don't take revenge, and then love your neighbor as yourself, which is the golden rule of the Torah. Now the Hida, Maran HaChida, brings such a heartwarming idea, and that is that we know that, and this is the whole reason I wanted to talk about this subject matter, even though there's dozens of things to talk about in the parsha. This is the antithesis of the golden rule of the Torah, to harbor hatred in your heart against a fellow Jew, and it's the reason that our holy temple was destroyed. And if we would have, instead of hating each other for no reason, love each other as we love ourselves, because we're all brothers and sisters, then the temple wouldn't have been destroyed. And the greatest suffering, like we see in this C-19 virus that has turned the world upside down, if we do get rid and not have hatred in our heart, so much Torah and so much desecration of the Torah and waste of time and life because our temple is not built. The world, God is perfect and the world should be perfect, not have pandemics, but it's because of this sin of having hatred we got rid of peace, and therefore our temple, which brings peace between us and our God in heaven. I did not know this, but the Hida says a beautiful thing. The Bet HaMikdash is called Shalom because it creates peace between, God forgives our sins and we have peace between us and God in heaven. Because we didn't have peace amongst ourselves, God doesn't let us have peace with Him either. Because Yisrael be'oraita v'kudsha b'richu chadhu. Now, moving along, I saw one of the most fascinating ideas in my life from the student of the Ramchal, Rav Chaim Lutzato. His name is the Rav Moshe David VALI. He was a great Italian Kabbalist and a prime student of Ramchal. He brings a fascinating thing, and he says, it's very interesting. It says, do not hate your brother bilvavecha, in your hearts, which means the Torah could have said just don't hate your brother belibecha, in your heart. Why does it say plural, bilvavecha, in your hearts? He brings such a heartwarming idea, and that is, he says, we have two hearts. That's why in Shema we say, love God with all your hearts. Your good heart, your good inclination, Yetzer HaTov, and your Yetzer Hara. And what does this mean? You shouldn't hate your brother, neither with your good inclination, with your good heart, or your heart that is after instant gratification. Because he says a very important thing. Hatred comes from the Yetzer Hara. And the Yetzer Hara always wants to create disunity, machloket, fights. On the other hand, the Yetzer HaTov always wants to create unity. Like we say in heaven, all the angels, which is a holy place, Kulam ahuvim, everybody respects each other, everybody loves each other. So he says, the RAMAD VALI says, even if the person is sinning, which is really the context of why the Torah says the only valid reason you should hate anybody because you see him sinning. It says, then be proactive rather than harboring hate for him because he's making a terrible mistake and making himself come far, far away from his Creator, why waste your negative energy and make it into a productive act? And this is such a glorious idea that we see somebody eating a cheeseburger or any other sin. The Torah says, don't hate him, go talk to him. Tell him, I love you, why you want to do this. And create unity between him, you, and God. And the RAMAD VALI just says another fascinating thing. He says, if you, instead of going and talking to the guy heart to heart, like a brother to a brother, and tell him, don't go into a dark, evil pit of the Satan, I want you not to sin because I want you to be holy, then he says, if you decide to ignore the Torah's recommendation of clearly caring for your friend, it says, make me, don't break me. If you see somebody making a mistake, don't break him in your heart and, communicate with him. Tell him, what you're doing is wrong. And if you don't do that, the sin is going to be on your head, not the sinner's head, because the sinner most probably is doing it because he's negligent. You, by seeing him sin and just being passive and hating him, it's really for no reason, because you should engage him, and from the bottom of your heart, dvarim hayotzim min halev nichnasim lalev. So if you, through pure love, tell him that he's making a mistake, most probably he's going to repent. And this brings me to the other great Italian Kabbalist, the Zera Shimshon. The Zera Shimshon says another very, very beautiful idea here. He says that basically, why does the Torah have to repeat hocheach tochiach? Reprimand and reprimand, reproof and reproof. Why doesn't it just say it once? Rashi says from the Gemara that even 100 times you have to reprimand him. And the Zera Shimshon says something so rational, and it lit up my day. He says that Yesh lomar sherov, because he says most times it's impossible to change somebody's habits, right? People that are smoking have to go through so much rigorous programs to quit the smoking. So the Torah is saying, the Zera Shimshon says, do not hate the guy if the first time you tell him to stop doing this sin, it's hard for him. Rather, it's going to take a process of up to 100 times. First time he'll feel regret he's doing it, and then the second time he can start doing it less. And that's really such a beautiful idea. The Midrash says any reprimanding, any tochacha, anytime you chastise somebody and provide reproof and reprimand, if it doesn't have love in it, and any love that doesn't have tochacha, we have this saying in Farsi that a person that really loves you and cares about you doesn't want you to become a drug addict. And worse than a drug addict is being addicted to sinful and lustful actions. And that's why, if you see that when you, from your heart, give love to your friend, the Zera Shimshon says, the guy says, you're right, thank you for reprimanding me. Like King Solomon says, when you reprimand a wise person, he says, thank you for bringing me out of the darkness of sin and enlightening me to see what the truth is. Then continue on the path, the positive path of providing positive feedback and guiding your friend to the way of God. And that's why the Bali Musar say, it says 100 times, because sometimes the guy is so messed up that you have to make it into bite sizes. Cut up your criticism of him, your tochacha of him, into 100 pieces, and then give it to him like small pieces of chocolate chips. Do not go and attack him with 101 different mistakes he's making. Even that one mistake, break it up into mini suggestions of how to bring him to the right way. And I would be doing you a disservice, because the Hida, we mentioned the whole reason that we're still in Galut, the whole reason people are miserable now because of this virus is because if Mashiach would have come, then there would have been no suffering. And that's really why answers the question why we Jews hate pigs so much. The Gra, in his explanation of the Gemara in Yuma that says baseless hatred is worse than the 3 cardinal sins, idol worship, murder, and illicit sexual relations, shefichut damim, gilui arayot, and avodah zara. He says you should know, each time we Jews went to exile, it corresponds one of the 4 non-kosher animals that have either split hooves or don't chew their cud. The last one is the chazir, is the pig. It has split hooves, but inside of it is impure. And he says that the Gra is a fascinating thing. He says the reason why God destroyed the second temple and we went into exile is because the inside of us, see, this is the whole problem. The Rambam explains a lot of times people may do something that's very distasteful and make a joke or make fun of you or say something that causes you to hate them, but they didn't realize how severe you took, how sensitive you are. And when you harbor the hatred in your heart, it like a cancer, God forbid, it grows more and more. And the Gra says that since outside the Jews in the time of the second temple were kosher, but inside they had the baseless hatred, therefore they had to suffer at the hands of the nation that's compared to pig, where the outside they look very noble, this modern Western culture that we're in, but inside it has no values and is totally decadent and destructive of any godly, angelic or saintlyism. And really, the bottom line is that the Hafetz says the only way to reconstruct our temple, if baseless hatred destroyed it, and according to Kabbalah, it doesn't make sense. What, are people lunatic? Why should somebody hate another person for no reason? It all comes from jealousy. If we cannot be jealous, the reason why people hate each other for no reason is because they see the other person is wealthier, healthier, more successful, and they don't judge each other favorably because of the jealousy burns. Then the guy says, oh, I'm going to do character assassination, Lashon Hara, and destroy him. So the solution to this terrible sickness which is causing so much pain is what? If baseless hatred destroyed our temple, then the Hafetz Chaim says we have to love every Jew for no reason, even if he didn't do any favor, and that will hopefully cause for their peace in the world. Has the world not suffered enough? And this brings me to Pirkei Avot. We learned in last week's Pirkei Avot that Rabban Yochanan said, what's the most magnificent attribute a person should have? Is Leiv Tov, a good heart. obviously, if in your heart you're hating people, you don't have a good heart. And the Yavitz explains, what does it mean to have a good heart? Which the greatest rabbi asked his students, and he agreed with Rabbi Lazar. He says, a heart that is totally devoid and pure and cleansed from any jealousy, any hatred, any anxiety and depression, because the person has perfect emudah. This is the most magnificent and grand of all the attributes a person could get to. And ultimately, one of my favorite books written by Rabbi Stern, that he explains all the practical mitzvahs in the Torah nowadays, for those people that are very right-wing, he brings halachically, Rabbi Yechiel Michal Stern, we always want to end off halachically. He says halachically nowadays even non-observant Jews we should not hate. Why? He bases this on the Hazon and the Hafetz. The Hafetz brings in the end of the book Ahavat Chesed from one of the poskim, Rabbi Yonatan Mibalin, and the Hazon also agrees with this position. You could only hate the guy. The Torah is saying you can only hate the guy if you reprimand him and the guy says no, go fly a kite, or tries to hit you or curse you for trying to bring him to the right way. But since the Gemara in Erechim nowadays says that there's hardly anybody that knows how to reprimand and provide reproof, tochacha, criticize in a loving and good way, so therefore they don't get the halachic status of a rasha, evil person, because somebody has to warn them for them to be considered a sinner. And since nobody knows how to warn each other appropriately, therefore we have to love everybody, and even the people that don't observe zero, we have to judge favorably and not harbor any hatred towards them. And the final thing the Zohar says, probably, which is the cherry on top of our lecture today, is the reason why you shouldn't hate, because Ani Hashem, going back to love your neighbor as yourself, the bottom line is that Yisrael ve'oraita ve'kucha b'richu chadu, the Torah, God, and the nation of Israel are one. So if you hate the children of God, in the essence you're hating God and Torah also. That's why God says, there's nothing more painful to a father when he sees his children hating each other and being jealous of each other. So may God help us finally, once and for all, maybe the world, all this suffering that's going through, we could realize that rather than hating each other, let's talk to each other and build productive discussions which will ultimately, hopefully, bring the Mashiach through love and caring. Amen.